Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jolie Dobre. I'm the lead of user experience at WebFirst, and this is my colleague Nathan Wallace. He's a program manager for WebFirst, and we are excited today to talk to you about making AI accessible for everyone in your company. Over the last yesterday and today, we've seen so much excitement about AI, and we know that the technical teams are ready to apply it everywhere and anywhere. But what about the rest of your staff? What about designers, business analysts, your salespeople? How do you get them excited about AI and get them thinking about employing AI in a way that really meets your customers' needs, not just for the sake of the fun of experimenting with it, which fun is good too, but really to apply AI in a way that brings value to your customers and to your company. So our problem was, how do we get everyone involved? We have a largely remote team. They're spread across roles, different technology levels, and different technology comfort levels, different comfort levels with AI particularly. And we didn't want a dry lecture or a walkthrough, something that wouldn't get people excited, maybe something that people would kind of zone out in, oh, I'm not technical enough, does this really apply to me? We wanted something that would be interactive, energizing, inclusive, and not only about AI or Drupal, but about helping people really feel confident enough to experiment with AI, and also, since we were a remote team, to break down some of the relationship silos that occur with remote teams. I think I'm missing a slide. Oh, no, why we chose Drupal. We chose to select the Drupal chatbot because it has a configuration mode that does not require deep technical expertise. And the setting up of the chatbot allowed our technical teams to dive into the use of that tool so they could get the technical experience that they desired, while the rest of the team could do something in simply plain language that could be a team activity that didn't require deep technical experience. It's a great practical use case. You see them becoming more and more common across the federal space and the medical space, which is the area that WebFirst caters to. So it was something practical that we know could benefit some of our clients and customers. Why did we choose a hackathon? Because we really wanted to gamify the experience. Serious play equals serious learning. We are made to interpret the world in terms of play and narrative. As children, play was our first instinct, and that's how we learned and explored. And that instinct really doesn't go away as we grow up. Instead, we just become a little more introverted about it and don't put it to practice the way that we could. The great thing about play is it removes a fear of being wrong. It encourages experimentation. And gamification itself taps into our curiosity, our creativity, and our sense of competition. So it awakens in us a competitive spirit. All of these things which are essential to exploring new technologies. And framing things as a game also makes collaboration more natural. It's less of a work day and more of a play day. And if you believe that play is a great way to learn, you are in very good company. Einstein discussed combinatory play, the taking of seemingly unrelated things outside of the realm of science, such as art, music, and philosophy, and blending them together to come up with new ideas. He even attributed his discovery of the theory of relativity to his musical education. Dr. Feynman, a physicist, he tells the story of being burnt out in the academic setting, being tired of the bureaucracy, and not finding physics fun anymore. And so he promised himself, the next cool thing I see, I'm just going to investigate it. And a few days later, he was walking through a university cafeteria, and there was a food fight, and someone chucked a paper plate, and he saw it wobble and spin, and he thought, what are the mathematics behind that? I'm going to just do something crazy and investigate that. And that led to his theory that describes how light and matter interact. And for him, also led to a Nobel Prize. Play is not just a gimmick, it really is good pedagogy. This slide, for those of you who get access to the slides later, provides you some links to research that's out there showing the benefits of play on learning. Many learning theories support play, and as well as team development and team cohesion. Play reduces anxiety when facing novel tasks. It encourages collaboration and experimentation. Games also improve trust, cohesion, and group morale, especially in new or forming teams. And games and competition, they foster intrinsic motivation. Lastly, play reduces cognitive and emotional resistance to unfamiliar content, particularly in a context like AI where you have people who are a little bit concerned about it. Is it going to take away my job? How is it going to affect the future? What is purpose when AI takes over so much? So there's a lot of people come to the table with concerns about AI that are emotional in nature. So turning it into a game frees them up for the ability to bring up those topics and converse with each other on a more neutral level. So we had some specific design criteria for the hackathon. We wanted it to have very intentional constraints so that it would be doable. It had to be done in about an hour. We wanted it to be hands-on but accessible to non-developers. It had to include a configuration task so that nobody felt on the spot to try to code something. And we wanted it to touch real Drupal components, and we wanted people to walk away with something that they could talk about to their clients so that they could talk intelligently about what chatbots do and the benefits they could offer. And we also wanted a strong narrative to hold it together. As a user experience designer, that's where my piece comes in, being able to tell that story of what is the value to the end user of the chatbot. So this hackathon gave us an opportunity to really talk to the teams about the use of personas and the use of user experience when designing AI solutions. So it was performed at a company offsite, so that gave us the bandwidth and the social environment to engage with each other. We had 1 hour total, and we started with 2 introductory presentations. One included the demo of the Drupal chatbot and information about how to configure that, and a second small mini talk about personas and how they can be used in the process of design. The technical setup that happened behind it, Nathan will talk about a little bit further. We had 6 instances of the chatbot set up. So one of each team had their own laptop and their own instance. And they were given a unique link to configure so none of the teams stepped on each other's toes. And even this setup period offered some collaboration. As I said, it allowed the developers to really explore the technical side of setting up the AI chatbots. The teams that we established, we had...
We'll switch over here.
Oh, this is you. I'm sorry, Nathan. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Jolie. Yeah, so a little bit about what went on to prepare for the hackathon. So to prepare, like Jolie had mentioned, we actually put together 6 different Drupal instances, 1 for each team. We also set up the vector databases that were going to be used and access to LLMs. Those are the 3 main components of our solution that we worked with for the hackathon. And one of the first big steps to creating a chat-based search is really having good data. So the first step is really understanding the data in your Drupal database, and some ways you can do that is if you already have your Drupal database and you have search indexes and good metadata, then you're already in a good place. And furthermore, you can use analytics to really understand what is the data that you really need to vectorize, because that's what enables the real-time chat experience. And behind the scenes, the Drupal AI module is really the orchestration tool behind the scenes. And what that did is let's see. Yeah, so in our case, we were vectorizing healthcare policy data to create our knowledge base. And the Drupal AI module really was the central hub, and it managed the conversation flows, complex queries and database retrieval, and allows you to do the prompt engineering for more specific and accurate responses. And for the real-time context-aware responses, we combined the vectorized data with RAG, which is the technique of querying the database and getting it back and using it in your search response. And there's actually numerous database providers right now for Drupal, so that it makes it really easy to select the provider and sync data between your Drupal site and the vector database. So that part is relatively easy to do. Two additional modules that we employed for this hackathon were the AI Assistance API module and the Chat UI modules. The AI Assistance API module really is the framework that helps you define the behavior of your chatbot through configuration, and it handles all the prompt engineering that you can do with the tool. And the Chatbot UI module really is a pre-built chatbot interface that makes it super easy to spin up a chat interface and prototype on day one. And that really freed the teams to focus more on designing conversations that aligned with the personas that they were assigned for each team for that really tailored experience that we were going for. All right, and with that, I'm going to actually pass it back to Jolie. She's going to talk a little bit more about the team structure.
Sure. So what we did was we had, we had teams of 6, and we had a developer, at least one developer on every team, one UX person, some content developers, PMs, and then some wildcards. And we mixed these teams up intentionally to really break down the silos, and people who maybe didn't normally get a chance to work together would have the opportunity to do so. Team captain was assigned, but otherwise the teams had to self-organize and choose who would do the readout at the end of the activity. So as I said before, we had 2 mini talks. One was about chatbots and prompting, and then a second one about personas, what they are, why they matter, and how to use them. So I'll go back to Nathan, and he can talk a little bit about chatbots.
Thank you, Jolie. Yeah, to kick things off, we started with having our engineer really describe the technology behind the hackathon, talked about the data at play, how we got it out of Drupal, and how we were using Drupal to retrieve it from the database. And this was really so that everyone had a basic shared understanding of the technology solution. And then we got into the prompt engineering aspect of the exercise. Drupal AI provides pre-prompt, the ability to have a pre-prompt action, and then at different stages you can give the chatbot instructions for how you want to do your database query, but also how you want the results to be formatted when it prints into your chat UI. So having everyone have a basic understanding of that was the first step. And then to keep things fun, we also shared prompting tips throughout the talk. And what you're seeing on screen here is we called them clues because the game theme was the clue game. So each team's persona was a clue character, and throughout the talk, we actually shared prompting tips in the form of clues. We also actually shared pre-tested questions as well. That way the teams had a baseline so that they got off to a good start with a functioning chatbot while then being able to tailor the results. And then we also talked about the emerging search paradigm. There's been a couple other sessions at the conference this year about the rise of conversational search. And it's really been gaining traction as platforms like Google are really blending AI summaries with search results. And really quickly, users have gotten used to asking questions instead of typing keywords and expecting answers and not just links. So that's really what's driving, this shift and what a lot of users are already, doing. And if you're seeing analytics for your site, you might be seeing the search queries, having these conversational aspects versus keywords. Yeah, and another fun thing we did was the evaluation criteria. So we put together a scoring rubric for each team, and shown here are the actual side quests that each team was invited to accomplish during the hackathon. And these open-ended challenges really made for a fast-paced, hands-on exploration of what you really can do with Drupal AI. And each team had novel solutions on how they wanted to format the responses, again, to align directly with their persona that they were assigned. And also having evaluation criteria is super important to validating your UI use case and measuring the performance over time. And Jolie's going to talk a little bit more about that.
Thanks, Nathan. Yeah, in any given project, you definitely need to think in advance of what are your evaluation criteria, what defines it as success for your end user, for your client, even internally for your own organization. What are those criteria? So this was also a good practice in the habit of thinking about what is the end goal of the tool that we're developing and walking through how we achieve all of those elements. So having the hackathon represent best practices in software development is good for just getting the team into the habit of thinking about it from end to end. The second mini talk was about personas. So this is, of course, my favorite part. We talked to the team about data-driven personas and how they are obtained. The site that we based it on was HHS.gov. There is a Qualtrics survey where we got most of our data from, where when visitors come to the site, they talk about their experience at the site. There's an open-ended area where they can put in comments, so we can get quite a bit of insight into who they are, what they've come for, and what their emotional state is at the time. And that is what we utilize to create the personas that the teams used. As Nathan mentioned, we based it on the game Clue, again, to re-energize the team with that sense of play. And here we have Mrs. White, who's an HHS employee. So she's interested in the intranet. She's interested in finding out about training. She's interested in what opportunities are available to her within her organization. We have Lieutenant Colonel Mustard. He is a caregiver who is sometimes deployed, and he's interested in different things to support living assistance for his family, access to health care while he's abroad. We have Mr. Green, who has experienced a health diagnosis. So he is cognitively impaired due to the emotional burden of illness. So when he's coming to the site, he's maybe easily distracted or unable to comprehend complicated words. Maybe he needs very plain language to assist him. We have Miss Scarlett. She runs a physician's office, so she's very concerned about HIPAA. Is her office protecting patient data the way that they need to? And then we have Professor Plum, and he's a medical researcher. And with Professor Plum here, you can see an example of some of the deeper context the team was provided with. We get a quote of Professor Plum's about his interest in medical research and his desire to find grant information, and then a short bulleted list of specific content items that he is looking for. So this is symbolic of each of the personas that the teams were provided. And we gave them a very clear task to configure the chatbot in a way that connects this persona most closely to the information that they care about in a manner that they can most relate to. So if it's Mr. Green, is it in plain language? If it's someone who can speak multiple languages, can the chatbot accommodate that? We had some people who experimented with Spanish language responses. So it was not to code, it was to design the overall interaction that was happening. So what did the teams do? Well, what we found was each team approached it very differently, which I think is something that we all forget. We all become siloed in our own way of interpreting the world, and then suddenly you see 6 groups of people approach a problem in 6 completely different ways. And I think that's always a great reminder of how much solutions can change based on the composition of your team, and how important every team member's opinion can affect the outcome. We had some that focused on tone and plain language. We had some that had pre-filled questions and curated specific user flows. And we had some that decided to give their personas a backstory. So that made it kind of entertaining to hear what they thought about that. Each team had about 15 minutes to present and to demo their chatbot setup and show the outcomes of how it responded to inquiries by someone pretending to be that persona. And for those learning about AI, most of them were very surprised at what a great difference the configuration made in the performance of the chatbot and what an important piece that is to consider. Finally, a big part of this was team bonding, getting the team to engage with each other. As I said, we were remote, so some people had never met in person before. So this was a great opportunity for them to interact, and the playfulness allowed them to, it served as an icebreaker. They could speak up, they could joke around. As I mentioned before, they could express any kind of anxieties they had about AI. And we saw firsthand how a little fun breaks down walls between departments. Doing the hackathon worked well because it provided a real low barrier to entry for AI. You didn't need to understand machine learning, you didn't need to write code, just configure based on your persona's needs. So all you really needed was an understanding of the person that you were crafting this for. And that shift made AI feel like a tool that people could shape rather than a tool that shaped them. Lastly, here are some of our learning takeaways. Its integration with AI is not just a development task, it is a cross-functional teams interaction. And hackathons work best when you have both constraints and very specific personas to work from. Participants would have preferred 2 hours. We only gave them 1, but once people got rolling, they would have liked to have experimented with it a little bit longer. It definitely softened the introduction to AI for those who had not yet been a part of an AI build and got them excited about the next opportunity when it might come along so that they could be involved and a part of it. And it provided a space for participants to really discuss their anxieties, and I think overall got the company very excited about expanding our AI offerings. How can you do this? If you want to run your own version, I would recommend that you pick a challenge that's configuration based and definitely time boxed to 1 to 2 hours. Create very simple personas with a nice narrative hook. We learn through story. Story is such an important part of how we learn and how we communicate and how we become creative. Mix the team roles and keep it light. And end with share outs so people get a chance to reflect and learn from each other, and of course practice their public speaking and their justifications for their design choices. And it doesn't take much, just some intention and a little imagination. Any questions? Yes.
How long did it take you to prep all of this, and how much did you use AI itself to prep it?
Yes. Well, we definitely had to validate the tech stack ahead of time, and we found that the data preparation was the biggest effort. Spinning up Drupal, we do that every day. That was really quick, but getting a data set that really was useful and created the comprehensive, accurate responses that we needed was key to this chatbot. So we did spend a lot of time on, we vectorized a lot of data, and then we realized let's scope it down a bit, and we targeted healthcare policy articles specifically, and found that when we had a more targeted approach with the data, we got better results. And overall, that was the biggest effort because that's what took the iteration, right? Because you'll find that, especially with Drupal AI and having the multi-prompt framework, if you don't have the right prompts in place, it just won't work. So we had to understand what were the knobs that we needed to turn, so where everyone had a baseline, and they started with essentially a functioning chatbot with context that's available to it. And we found that the data preparation it took, I think we we iterated that twice. I think that was like a 2-week process of vectorizing a bunch of data, and then refining a bit after we tested it out. Yeah.
But that was calendar weeks. We had a dev that were right, like we had.
Yeah. This was an internal
This was
thing.
an on the side.
This is an internal thing that.
So you basically tested the tasks by yourself to verify if it's actually possible.
We did, yeah. We definitely validated the setup that we had with the database, the data, and the prompting. And once all 3 of those were working well together, I mentioned we created test questions, and that's really what we used to test it. That way, each team knew like there was a baseline to go back to if their prompts totally ruined the process. Yeah.
And the personas and stuff, did you come up with them by yourself, or did you ask the AI to come up with the personas?
Actually, yeah, I'll let Jolie cover that. Yeah.
Sure. Well, as I said, they were database, so they are existing personas. But in terms of the portraiture, I worked with AI to capture the clue style to create the faces, and then pulled them into Photoshop and Adobe InDesign to get that card-like effect. Yes.
Did you find that the skill set of the team leader in terms of the knowledge of AI made a difference into how effective the whole team was?
Yeah, there was definitely folks that were leaning in, right? They wanted to actively engage with AI. And then there's folks that are more apprehensive and skeptical of AI. So you have a full spectrum of team members. The team lead, we really we left it up to each team to choose who they wanted the team lead to be, and it really was more of an opportunity to let some of the more junior employees take on a leadership role, safe to fail, safe space, and really give them a chance to lead. And we thought that was a really successful tactic. Yeah.
We actually, it turned out that later afterwards, even the HR person was like, "Oh, this is what this is all about. This is the practical knowledge that you pick up from it." Was actually drawing them into the process, and they were apprehensive at the beginning before. So, and we did kind of combine this all in an all hands setting. So it was bringing the whole company together to kind of get involved with this. So it worked out really well.
And I think as we see AI advance, of course, it's automating the lower level safe to fail tasks that exist, and it's going to erode the entry ramp first. So if we can find activities like this that provide a safe to fail environment that isn't costly to companies, I think that's really exciting. And we need to think about those in terms of maintaining our expertise and propelling us forward in a way that isn't damaging to our clients or to our bottom line. Yes?
Two questions. Was it Web First staff who did the hackathon, or were there government staff clients there as well?
In this case, it was all web first. Yeah.
And then what was there any like follow up on some of the things that were developed? Was there interest in developing them? Sort of what were the outcomes after the workshop?
Yeah, we did continue work in this area. There had been some ongoing work that we had been doing with RAG-based search, and we did build out some examples that were targeted towards specific use cases based on this. And really what it did is helped highlight the folks that were fully engaged, and they stood out, and we formed a tiger team around people that really wanted to pursue this. And they actually built projects afterwards that built upon this. So I think having the solution in place really lets the use cases then come into play, and as people clients have needs, now we have this new tool set that enables so much more.
And I think that's a good introduction to two of the products that Web First has that are AI based. We have the Lexari AI Search, and we have the Smart Trials AI. And both of these tools are utilizing I believe the same underlying Drupal AI components.
Yeah, there's different flavors of the RAG based search. some of this is about smart querying, and then part of it is about agentic database retrieval. Those are buzzwords, but that's really what we're putting into play here when we're going from a typical keyword search to a natural language search where the LLM is processing the search query before it hits the database, and then whatever is returned from the database, the LLM actually does a second call to format that response in natural language. So you're actually doing 2 end-to-end calls to the LLM every time you have a chat-based response. Yeah.
Any other questions? Is anyone thinking of doing a hackathon within their organization?
Did you have a question there?
I was just curious if you had any like examples of a configuration change you made to better solve a problem, like
Yeah.
getting what you're at, but I
Yeah, so if you use Drupal AI, the module, I mentioned the AI Assistance API provides like a configuration for each AI assistant that you set up. And with that module specifically, you can use it on the back end in Drupal to do different things, different agentic tasks. In our case, we used it to handle chatbot responses. So that was a very specific use of that because it is more broad if you want to use it for other things. One thing we found was the challenges really drove the way people were changing the prompts. And one thing, a common challenge with RAG-based search is what's the context and level of accuracy that you need for whatever specific topic that you're working with. And in our case, they needed to be accurate and specific. So a lot of times you're telling through prompt engineering that this is only respond with information from the database, not your LLM, right? Because if ChatGPT could answer questions for you all day long, but it's not going to be from your RAG database. So a lot of the prompt engineering was instructional in the sense that it's instructing how to extract the data, what data to extract, when to not answer a question was also a big setting up the guide rails. For instance, how to handle multilingual. Like once you can have instructions to say if they input a Spanish word, then switch to a Spanish first conversation. Another one was actually putting information into the prompt. Like sometimes you just need your main questions that you have like 5 FAQs. Well, you can just put that directly into the prompt. And a lot of teams did that so that it had very clear instructions and it didn't have to even go to the database for very important questions. So those are some of the techniques they use, is putting the context directly into the prompt in some cases to get that specific response that we were wanting.
So it's all about how you change what goes in and what comes out, not just handing over what someone types and then expecting perfectly.
Well, yeah, and like I mentioned, there's 2 round trips to the LLM. The first is to prepare the query, and then once the database gives you your data back, it takes that and that's the other part of it, was how do you format the response to enable like alignment with the persona? Like, is it a bullet point with 3 links, or is it just the first result and a paragraph about it? And the teams, that's where they were doing a lot of different experimenting with tailoring it to their persona. Anything to add to that?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Like in the real world, like you couldn't actually have 5 different chatbots, right? Like because you don't know who the person actually is.
Yeah.
So how would you solve?
Yeah, that's a great question. And everyone's probably heard of multi-agent frameworks. I think that's where this is going. Even with Drupal AI, the module, you can have multiple AI assistants.
Yeah.
And I think the trend right now is that you have an orchestrator agent, and in that case, you probably have 5 different chatbot assistants that are tied to persona, and then your orchestration agent would pick which one matches the user based on their own input. Yeah. And also the demos that the prototypes that we have in place now, they also use like a a web interface where it's not all just typing. We also give them like clickable options so that like they start a query and then we help them finish the query by giving them clickable options to make sure that they get all the information that they need before they get the response.
Have you? Sorry, I got
No, it's great.
Have you showed it to a customer? Like,
Yeah. We work with a few of our government clients, and we are working on things with those clients, specifically in the healthcare policy area. And yeah, it's happening right now. It's very much a now thing. The Smart Trials AI tool that we created had a great response, and we're still working on like how we get that deployed to a production environment. Yeah, but still early days as far as things going to production.
And it is something that we would like to see in some of our federal clients where the information architecture and content management are a struggle, especially in this environment where they're losing staff, to be able to have an AI that could help pull information for a visitor. I think that the chatbots could really help smooth over some of those issues that they are currently facing.
It's really about that paradigm shift. Like you're seeing the big tech companies already doing it, and I think the government is getting on the bandwagon much quicker than they normally would. Actually, usually it takes 2 to 3 years for these solutions to come out, and things are just happening much more rapidly. We're finding.
Any other questions?
No security questions?
What's up with the security?
Yeah, you gotta watch out what you put in there. I think that whole thing about data is an important point. Is in federal and in government, data security is super important, and that's there was some talk about the vector databases. So part of that is having a good architect to make sure that your solution isn't leaking data to an LLM like ChatGPT that is going to be saving that information in perpetuity. So we did in the engineering primer, we talked about the different cloud providers, Azure and AWS, and the offerings they have to make sure that your data is safe. Has anyone else implemented a chatbot or get some nods? Yep. Awesome. Have you guys found similar successes or challenges, or?
Still in progress.
Yes, still in progress. Yes.
I think the thing that which is my garbage in, garbage out, data is really important. Retrieval is more important than count.
Yeah. We found
that.
that.
Current students will allow one of the key steps to receive correct response back.
Yeah.
All more focus is retrieval phase.
Yep, that's right. But like I mentioned, the way that these vector database providers are integrating with the Drupal sites, you can leverage existing Solr indexes and your metadata to help optimize that.
Could you get a copy of the slides?
Yes, you definitely can. If you'd like us to give them to you directly, you can come by the Web First table and we'll provide them to you directly. Otherwise, you can get them through Drupal-for-gov.
Oh, okay.
They will publish them, and the talks will be available online. But we're happy to provide them to you directly. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.